Welcome to this episode of Women Meets Motherhood. Today is a special with Jenny meets Lydia. And today I literally have the most phenomenal woman with me today. We're going to be discussing facing adversity in pregnancy. And previously we've spoken to women who have struggled to see their pregnancy to the end. And this time we do see Lydia going all the way through to full term, but that was not an easy journey at all. And I'm not talking about your normal pregnancy symptoms. I'm talking about real adversity. I mean, putting your own life on the line to bring life into this world. And so, Lydia, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with us. And just as we start, we're talking about adversity in pregnancy. And to start off with, at 21, you were told that you can't have children. And now you're a mum of 5 girls.
Yes.
So you proved the doctors wrong.
Yes.
But can you just tell us a little bit about how that conclusion was made over your life? And in that, how did you feel about if you would ever be a mum, and what were your options available to you?
Well, at 21, I think I was quite reckless. So even though I was told I couldn't have children, I don't think I actually thought about it too much.
Yeah.
I was more concerned with a career and that if I was meant to have children, it would happen somehow. So to be honest, I don't think I didn't dwell on it too much. It was hard to hear at first, and then
What was the reason that they said you couldn't have children?
I lived in Toronto at the time, and everyone there seems to have gynecologists. So it was the thing to do to go and see a gynecologist.
Yeah.
And it was him that told me that I had heavy scarring on my fallopian tubes. And so he thought it would be very, very difficult, if at all possible, for me to be able to conceive.
Okay, and then now you have
And
5
now,
girls. 5 girls, of which you have twins as well.
I do, yeah.
So obviously you're very fertile.
Yes.
So fast forward 6 years later, you do fall pregnant.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about your first trimester? What did your first trimester look like?
Well, I met my husband, and I was just starting a career for the council, and 27 years old, suddenly discovered that I was pregnant, but I didn't know. I was sort of reckless about taking contraceptives, because I thought, well, if I'm not going to fall pregnant anyway, and I had missed a pill. And I remember it was a couple of weeks after my birthday. So I had been drinking quite heavily and out partying, and then realised I hadn't had my period. And so a couple of weeks later I took a pregnancy test at work, and there was lots of colourful language in the toilet cubicle when I discovered that, yes, I was actually pregnant. So shock and surprise.
So found out you're pregnant.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks later, something happens at work.
Yes. I had a mini stroke, which is a TIA, and I was sitting in a meeting taking notes, and then I lost most of my vision. I'd say about 90% of my vision went. So I was writing the notes down, and I couldn't see what I was writing or the people sitting around the table. So we left the meeting room, went back to my desk, and went through some emails that I had previously read that morning that needed some action points, but couldn't make sense of any of the emails. So I started to get really worried about that, because I knew that I had read them previously, but they didn't make any sense to me.
At this point, did your work colleagues know that you were pregnant?
No, they did. They did know I was pregnant.
Okay.
I think, yes. So I started to panic, and got up and left the room, and a few of my colleagues noticed I was upset, so came across and asked me how I was doing. But then I found I couldn't talk.
Wow. So you couldn't see, you couldn't talk, you couldn't make sense of
what was going
on around you. And at this moment, were you thinking about your baby, or you didn't even realise you were pregnant? Like, that wasn't at the forefront of your thinking?
No, it wasn't at the forefront of my thinking. I think because it was very new that I had discovered I was pregnant. Only a couple of weeks sort of thing. So I was more concerned with just what was happening. I didn't know what was happening to me. And I could just about see enough to make my way to the toilets, and sat in the toilet for about 20 minutes or so until I felt somewhat better. Then I went and phoned my parents, who were both nurses at the time, and they said, get to A&E, because it sounds like I've had a stroke. So
And then at that point, they confirmed that you had a mini stroke?
Well, they did lots of testing. By the time I got to A&E, the symptoms had all gone.
Okay.
So they didn't know what was happening.
Okay.
So I was in for about a week, having lots of ultrasounds and lots of testing. Eventually they did an MRI, which that's when it became quite real for me that I was pregnant, because MRIs and that sort of scan obviously carry some risk to the baby, and I didn't want my baby having any risks. So
what were your parents? So your parents were nurses.
Yeah.
They know that their daughter, who was told that she couldn't have children, is pregnant, but now something's happened and no one at this moment really knows what's going on. Were you scared that you're going to have a miscarriage, or what were you thinking?
I was, for the scan. I did think, oh my goodness. And so I asked the nurses there if I could have an internal pregnancy scan, just to check that the baby was all right.
Yeah.
But they weren't very pleasant about it, and they clearly didn't want to give me a scan. They were busy, so they had lots of other patients to deal with at the time. But I kept on, and they did give me a scan, which was really interesting to see. It was, say, 9 weeks pregnant, but the baby was okay.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and had the MRI scan, and they saw that there was something on the brain. They could tell that I had had a mini stroke. So that's when it was diagnosed. And
then if you fast forward, I know that some time passed, and then you went to go and see a heart doctor, a specialist in a heart doctor. And what did they discover then?
So then they discovered I had a hole in the heart, and I was transferred to the Royal Brompton Hospital, who deal with heart patients. And from there I was transferred to Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, because they deal with heart patients in pregnancy. Oh, so is it something that is common? So I don't know. I mean, they had some special consultants there that then dealt with me for the rest of the pregnancy. So you were 27 and you just found out you're pregnant, and now you found out you've got a hole in your heart. So it's something that you've lived throughout your life and not having any problems with your heart per se. That's right. Yes. So how did that happen? How has it not been picked up? 20% of the population, I found out, do or are born with a hole in their heart. But in pregnancy, your blood is a lot thicker than it is usually. And because of that, the blood went up to the brain through the hole instead of around the body, which causes the TIA. And so you're a high risk at having strokes in pregnancy. Wow. Yeah. So 5 pregnancies. Well, no, you had 4 pregnancies because you had twins as well. Twins, yeah. And then, so you had mini strokes in your first pregnancy. Yeah. And you were able to carry to full term and have the baby. Yeah. But your condition said it affected your birth choices. So can you tell us a little bit about what? Yeah, so I had to have heparin injections every day to thin my blood. So every day of what? Of the pregnancy until 2 weeks after birth. Every single day? Yes, and I can't do it. I tried. I got oranges and satsumas and kept injecting them, thinking that I could then do it on myself. But I've got a needle phobia and I just couldn't do it. So did you? Okay, so who helped you? My husband had to do it. Or my mum, thankfully, has given injections. Oh, she's a nurse. Yeah, she's a nurse. So when my husband was away, she could then give me the injections, but I just couldn't do it to myself. Wow. So can you tell us a little bit about the birth choices then? So I wasn't allowed to give birth naturally because the pushing and the pressure on my heart would have caused a stroke, and the risks of having a full-blown stroke after a mini stroke were quite big. So I had 2 choices. One was to have a completely assisted birth, so to go into labour naturally but not push, and to have the baby delivered completely by ventouse and forceps. Okay. So is that still vaginal birth? It's still vaginal birth, but it's very intrusive. Okay. It's quite painful, and it's also traumatic for the baby. Okay. Because they're pulling on the baby's head, and the ventouse, I think, works with suction. And I didn't like the idea of having that, because they also said that there is a high percentage that I would need a caesarean anyway, especially if my heart was under a lot of pressure during it. So I opted to go straight for caesarean. And that was your birth choice for? And that was it, yeah. And then after that I had to have caesarean for the second birth, because I still had the hole in the heart, and I had another mini stroke on my second pregnancy.
And I think, is that the one that you were in the toddler
Oh,
group?
I was in toddler
So
group.
can you tell us a little bit about that and how that made other mums maybe, or new mums feel, I don't know if they knew what was going on.
Yeah, it was it was really shocking. I was talking to a mum, much like I'm talking to you now, and all of a sudden my hearing went funny and I lost my 90% of my eyesight again. So I knew this time, I felt it, that that's what was happening. And as we were talking, I suddenly lost words again, so I just couldn't continue communicating.
Did you have your first child with you?
I did. So she was playing and I was looking at her and at the mum, just looking as if saying, help me.
So you could hear what you wanted to say in your head.
Yes.
But it wouldn't come out.
The words just weren't there. My brain wasn't connecting the verbal part of talking. Yeah. So I didn't know what to do. So I just sort of sat there looking quite distressed.
And what was she? Was she just like, are you okay?
So she kept asking me, are you all right? And all I could do was shake my head and cry until it passed. So it was, 20 minutes, half an hour of just sitting down. And
was she just stayed with you?
Yeah.
And then did you explain to her afterwards?
Afterwards, yeah.
So she must have been like, I did not expect it.
No. So she was a bit freaked out. And my daughter got upset and had come to me and I put my arm around her, but I couldn't say to her, Mummy's okay, don't worry.
So how old was she around that time?
She was 2.5.
Wow.
Yeah, 2.5.
Would you say that your experience has made maybe your oldest like probably mature quickly? I don't know how if she's noticed that maybe your pregnancies or your condition may have needed her to be a bit older or not necessarily.
No, I don't think. I think she was just a bit too young to notice. But when I was pregnant with the twins, she was very good at helping because she knew that I was in quite a lot of pain. I developed 2 groin hernias.
Wow.
With the twins, and I was massive. And I'm only short, so I'm 5'1", and I'm a dress size normally 6 to 8. And with the twins, I went up to a dress size 26.
Are you joking?
Around the waist? No. So I was very, very large.
Wow.
Yes, it looked like a human experiment.
Actually, if we go back to so you've had these 2 pregnancies where there's, you've had to have injections every single day. You're high risk, I guess, because you had the hole in your heart. And then I think after your second pregnancy, you had a surgery to fix your heart, as you say. But then you fall pregnant again.
Yeah.
And then you go to the scan and I guess it was the scan that you found out you were having twins. Is that right? So when they told you, you're having twins, what was your immediate reaction?
Well, it was an odd one because they initially, when I phoned up, because I had some bleeding, they thought I'd miscarried.
Okay.
So it was really sombre when I walked into the room. There were 2 women there, 2 nurses, and it was all very sombre and they were ready to tell me that I'd miscarried.
Yeah.
So I got onto the table and they did the scan and there was silence. And I looked at the monitor and I saw 2 sacs and I thought, either it's a double screen or there's 2 in there. And yes, they said, you've got twins.
And so at that moment, were you thinking about all the adversity that you've already had to face and what would this mean, putting that on top of twins? Or what were you thinking? Were you anxious? Or?
I was worried. And in fact, my first questions were, are they okay? What's the added problem or adversity that I'm going to face in my pregnancy? Because I knew it was going to be high risk. It's multiples. I asked if they were, I stumble now. Is it in you? I forget.
Like if they're identical, if they're in one? If
they're in one, and it's even more high risk at that point. So I asked lots of questions and it took a long time to sink in.
And what was the reaction of your husband as well? Because I guess after 2 pregnancies, he knows that you're high risk. Your life is literally on the line every time you're carrying your own children. Yeah. And now was he with you when you found out you were having twins? So when you told him, what was his reaction?
Shock. He was really shocked. And neither one of us have twins in our families. So it was a double whammy. We didn't expect that at all. And funnily enough, my first impression was, oh my gosh, I'm not built to carry twins. I'm only tiny.
And it's true. You are very petite. And even I was saying to you earlier that you're so strong, but you're so unassuming. Like when someone probably sees you without maybe your children or whatever, they will never know how much you've gone through or how much your little body has carried, or not even just has carried in terms of the life, but even in terms of the injections, the scans, all the things that your body's been subject just to bring your 5 children into the world. And sometimes as mums, that's some of the sacrifices. Like literally, Lydia, you put your life on the line to bring your 5 babies into this world. And that's a lot of men can't even do that. So you're an amazing woman. And I know that with the pregnancy of your twins, hernia growth, so you had to have surgery to remove those. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what you were thinking as you had to go through that surgery?
Yeah, so the surgery, normally for hernias, they can do keyhole surgery, but because of all the internal scar tissue that I have, because of the multiple cesareans, they had to do 2 full operations. So I've got 2 very large scars either side of my lovely cesarean scar. So it's quite a patchwork down there. But it was scary because they put mesh.
How many weeks for you at this?
No, so that was done after the pregnancy, but very soon after.
Okay, so on top of having to recover from carrying twins, going from size 6 to size 26, then you had to soon have an operation.
Yes.
And then also be a mum and be there for your 2 other children and then your twins.
Yes.
Wow.
So it was nerve-wracking because I knew that my husband is very busy. He works a lot, and at that time he was working away in parts as well. And I have just my mum and my dad, who are quite elderly. Yeah. And my mother-in-law, who again, she's 80. And that's all I have. It's a small family here. And so for me to be out of action is quite complicated because obviously I've got other children to get to school and to do all the running around and cooking and all the things a mother has to do. And I was told I couldn't, much like the cesarean, I couldn't pick it or lift anything up, especially anything heavy, like especially the babies. Yes.
And the 2 older ones.
And the twins in the car seats. I wasn't allowed to lift them up. So, yeah, I was really worried.
And what was the birth like with your twins?
That was quite hairy. I was due to have a cesarean on the 5th of January, 2011. And on the 4th of January, I went up to the hospital in London to have the pill that they give you before you have your cesarean the following day. I got home, it was about 5 o'clock, went to the loo and my waters broke. And I didn't know because I've never had a natural birth. So it took me a while to realise this is taking a long time on the toilet.
So you thought you were just
I thought it was just weeing and weeing and weeing. And yes, and after a while I thought, no, this is not right. This is a lot of water. So I got in the bath. I was actually at my mum and dad's house and had to phone my husband who was working and say, I think I've gone into labour. At which point my husband obviously came back, picked me up, we whizzed into hospital and then they left me on the bed and said, well, birth takes a long time, you'll be fine. Yeah. But I knew something was wrong because I was having really strong contractions, really strong contractions, and I couldn't speak. But because I've never done that before, I thought maybe this is normal.
You couldn't speak?
I couldn't speak during contractions because it was so overwhelming. But thinking, well, that's what labour is, isn't it? It's hard work. And the consultant monitored me and said, no, we'll might as well leave you to the morning. So this was about 10 o'clock at night. And he said, we'll leave you until the morning. I think you'll be okay. Obviously, I would then be in labour all night. But I was first in for operation in the morning. So he thought it would be okay. We were discussing where my husband would go. Yeah. Because we live in Surrey and not in London. Yeah. He was thinking maybe he would sleep in the car park underground. Oh, wow. Which meant I couldn't phone him because there was no reception underground. And that's where it was left. So my husband was getting ready to go and I was having these really painful contractions and the consultant, praise the Lord, went off shift. Another consultant came on, took a look at the reading because I was all wired up with the babies and said, oh my gosh, we've got to get you in surgery right now or you're going to die. All 3 of us.
So if they hadn't shifted, you would have waited until the morning. Yeah.
And in fact, I wouldn't have lasted that long. 1 more contraction, they told me, and the babies and myself would have died.
1 more contraction?
1 more contraction, yeah.
And not just that, but your children before would have lost their mum. Yeah. Their siblings. Yeah.
And what was happening at the time?
So was your husband there when he said that? one more contraction, or had he gone?
Yeah, no, thankfully he hadn't, because the problem with that was, if he had have gone downstairs, I would have been going through this on my own, because I had no way to contact him, because there was no reception. And I couldn't remember where we parked. But, I mean, it was there. So somehow someone would have had to go and try and find him. But without a phone, with a massive car park, would have been...
Wow.
So, yeah.
So thankfully, your twins are here. You're still here.
Yes.
And just fast forward, you get pregnant again.
I do.
So at that moment, what are you thinking? How did that happen?
Well, to be honest, that was just it was something I said on a whim. And I said to my husband one summer, if I wasn't getting older and if money wasn't an issue, wouldn't it be lovely to have one more? And he decided, oh my gosh, yes, that's amazing. Let's try again.
Seriously. And bearing in mind, I hear that after like two cesareans, they say don't have any more, or like something like that. What's the rule? What's the fast?
They like 3 as a maximum. Yeah.
Okay. So you've had your 3.
So
which one of them was a twin? Which one of them was twins? And
the problem with the twins is my uterus was rupturing. So it was very thin, tearing apart. And they had to cut out the bit that was tearing and sew it back together, like the good halves kind of thing, back together. So it was really risky.
To have another one.
Yeah.
So what made you?
Well, I phoned the hospital and I asked them, would it be okay? And actually, they weren't very good at getting back to me. So I kind of just thought, well, if it's meant to be, it will be, and if it's not meant to be, it won't happen.
So was that you trying for a boy?
No, it wasn't actually. No, and actually, I don't know what I would do with a boy. After 4 girls, I have no idea what to do with boys.
Fair enough. So how was that pregnancy? Your fifth is here. Everyone, her fifth is here and safe and sound. And I hear you say that's your most normal.
It was. So when I went for my first meeting, they put me with the high-risk team again at Chelsea and Westminster. I spoke to my consultant that I had previously with the twins.
Was he looking at you like you were crazy when he saw you back?
Yeah, they immediately started discussing, tying up my tubes and let's make this the last. But they said that actually it was okay. They had done a good job at stitching me back together.
Yeah.
And because I'd waited 5 years, my body had time to heal properly, and strengthen up again. So they weren't too worried after that. And and she was the most normal birth. Actually, no, there was an issue.
What was that?
She had water on her lungs.
So during the pregnancy?
So after the pregnancy, at birth, they put her on me, and she was making little like yippy noises, little puppy noises. Yeah. Which I just thought was sweet. And they said, no, that's not good. And I forget what they call it, but it's where she had fluid on her lungs. Yeah. And so they had to monitor her. But after half an hour of skin on skin, she was fine.
We thank God. Yeah. So thank you, Lydia. As I said, you are a phenomenal woman, and a lot of women after the first would have been like, even women who have just a little bit of labour pain, they're like, I'm not having any more, I'm done. But after all that you've been through in pregnancy, in labour, literally putting your life on the line to literally bless this earth with more of your kind, you are amazing. And I just wanted to just ask you if there is any other, if there are women out there like a Lydia who is going through adversity in pregnancy. Not talking about, a bit of morning sickness here and there. We're talking about real adversity in pregnancy. What advice would you give them? What could you tell them to help them to keep going and not to give up and to be strong for their family? What would you say?
I think get as much help as you can from all those around you, and really lean into your husband and get him to help, and talk about your fears and your worries, and most importantly for me was praying, and just knowing that God is there and that he has a plan for me and for my babies, and that he's with me.
And he's seen you through.
Yeah, he has.
Yes, and will continue. So God bless you. Yes. Thank you so much, Lydia.
Thank you.
Honestly, I'm really blessed by your story. So thank you so much for tuning into Women Meets Motherhood. I really hope that Lydia's story has encouraged someone out there and even educated us about what women have to go through just to bring life into this earth. So Stay tuned for season 2, which is coming soon. And honestly, comment, like, share. Lydia's story needs to be heard. And as always, be encouraged, be equipped, and be empowered. Thank you.